Chair of the Senate Higher Ed Committee, Senator Terri Bonoff, joins me now to talk a little bit about safety issues on Minnesota campuses. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it, Senator.
Thank you, Julie, for having me.
Let's begin with this broad issue with your committee taking up some of these security and safety issues. You know, there was the rash of sexual assaults on the University of Minnesota campus. There's some robberies as well. Let's talk first about when you heard about these incidents, both as a parent and as chair of this committee. What was your reaction? Did you step in as a legislator or a parent first?
Well, I was first approached by what I will call my mad moms. I mean, literally, these are people in my own community whose, in particular, daughters are at the University of Minnesota, and they reached out to me in numbers. And they just said they were very scared. They were sending me copies of the crime alerts that their kids were getting, and they said, what is going on? And so I immediately took it very seriously. I contacted my people at the university, my government affairs folks. They were very responsive right away. They got a meeting together where I was able to meet with the chief of police at the university, as well as the Minneapolis police, who were responsible for overseeing that area, and to have a broad conversation around what's happening, what are we seeing, what's happening on the ground, what's needed. And I greatly appreciated that responsiveness, but I knew that it wasn't about me being informed. What was really needed was the public needed to hear. The public needed to hear what's happening, what are we doing about it, what are our intentions, and so that's why we set the hearing as we've done.
And we're taping this segment prior to Tuesday's hearing, but what do you expect to hear based off of these conversations that you've already had?
What I expect to hear is that each of the jurisdictions responsible for protecting our kids and our communities are taking action. I expect to hear that they're stepping up both their uniformed police as well as their undercover efforts. I expect to hear that they are working very hard in a collaborative fashion because it's complicated. We keep hearing about what's happening, quote, at the university, but it really isn't on campus. There has been the exception, that brazen incident at Anderson Hall that really, I think, took us all by surprise. But for the most part, the things that you're reading about are outside of the campus itself. It's in the broader community. And so what's required in that situation is the Minneapolis police needs to work hand in hand with the university police. And, for example, in our not-for-profit privates, whether it be Augsburg, where I believe they had a situation, those personnel on those campus communities have to work with the St. Paul police. And so we're going to hear from each of the local jurisdictions, as well as we'll hear from some campus representatives to hear just how that collaboration works and is there a need to do more. And then we've also reached out to the sheriffs because they augment and enhance what's already happening on the ground.
And Senator, excuse me, although these headlines have primarily focused on the University of Minnesota, I think it's safe to assume that these issues aren't necessarily just for that campus or Augsburg as well. It's a much more broad issue. So is this something that you think all state schools should be paying attention to? And what would you like to see done so that awareness is heightened minimally?
I do agree with you that it really goes far beyond, for example, the University of Minnesota, and that's why the name of this hearing is a Metro Campus Safety Update. You know, to begin with that, let's take a look at what's happening at MCTC, which is in a very challenging area, that university in particular. But in all of our Metro campuses, what's happening with regard to safety, I think by heightening our attention on these issues, we serve a few functions. Number one, we let the public know what's happening. Number two, we let those who are serving to protect, we let them know the strong priority we place on the collaboration that we must have if we're going to adequately fulfill our role. But then also, our students have a responsibility too. They have to keep themselves safe. They have to be, keenly paying attention to, are they walking with somebody? Are they on their phone, or are they paying attention to what's happening around them? all those things that will serve to keep them safe in the future, we want to make sure that we're making that information available to our students.
At this point, do you anticipate the need for any new legislation or additional funding from the state?
We're going to find out. That we're going to hear from folks tomorrow, and we're going to hear what's needed. I've had some pre-conversations with some of the chiefs, and one of the things that I found interesting was right now we have invested significantly in the 800 megahertz communication systems. There's some concern that the campus police, right in the middle of an incident, may or may not be able to access that kind of communication. And believe it or not, that may take a legislative fix. So those are some of the examples of when we ask the question, what are obstacles? We'll hear what the obstacles are, and do those obstacles need legislation to remove them? We don't know.
Okay, Senator Terri Bonoff, thank you for joining us today. We certainly appreciate your time.
Thank you.